for Cigar Talk, the fastest growing cigar show in the nation. Whether you're a new cigar enthusiast or a cigar aficionado, we have something for everyone, bringing you the best interviews, cigar reviews, and weekly giveaways. So grab yourself a cigar.
It's time to light 'em up.
Hey, welcome back, Cigar Talk. I'm your host, Rob Jones, and today we've got co-host Bryant Falconer with us today. We'll be talking about our cigars of the week. We've got a great interview with Terrence Riley from Aganorsa Leaf. We'll be talking about some of the myths and facts regarding cigar health, what it means for cigar smokers. And then we'll also be talking about what we're drinking, what we're smoking, and hopefully we'll have a great show for you guys. So let's get on with it. How you doing today, Bryant?
Hey, man, I'm doing real good, real good.
So let's start off with talking about what we're smoking today.
Okay, today I am smoking a Macanudo Inspirado Orange.
I have never had that.
Oh, my goodness, man. You just don't know what you're missing, bro. You don't know what you're missing.
Well, when you tell me orange, I'm like, it's not infused orange flavor.
It's not infused orange flavor. It's not. This is a Honduran filler, Honduran wrap. It has Nicaraguan filler also in it. But, man, you're talking about the minute you light it up, that pepper hits you. And, man, it flows through all 3/3 of it.
And that's a pretty big cigar you got there. What is that, a 60 by 6?
Yes, sir. And I'm talking about a good smoke all the way through. You don't have to worry about it. You get your earthy and nut tones in it. But, I mean, it's sweet, a little sweet all the way through it. And when you retrohale, you can feel that anise coming through. It just matches the entire – I love this thing, man.
Well, I tell you, I don't know if you know – but today, down at the Leaf, the LFD Cabinet 6 is back.
It came in yesterday.
I know. That's what I heard. Did you get one?
I was there when they were bringing them in. I had to leave.
Yeah, I went down there this morning and had 3.
Probably no more left.
No. We only got one box of the Cabinet 5 and the 6. Yep. And I smoked 3. I think Paul bought 5 or 6 of them. Ed bought 1. Everybody that was smoking them. So if you guys haven't had the LFD Cabinet 6, if you can get your hands on one, it's one of the best smokes, bar none.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's a good smoke.
So anyway, we had a rep come in the shop today, and I always like supporting the guys that come in the shop. Anyway, I'm smoking one of the cigars that his company carries. It's the Jericho Hill. I've actually smoked one of these before. Probably about 6 months ago or so. I can't remember exactly. But anyway, it's a great cigar. I don't know where it's from. I don't know the binder. I don't know the wrapper. All I can tell you is it's a solid medium to full smoke. I'm enjoying it. It's definitely got leather, spice, earth, which is basically the trifecta for me. You can throw some other flavors in there and I'll enjoy it. But if you get the trifecta down, man, I'm sold. And so anyway, let's get to the rest of the show, what we're talking about. What are we drinking? We're drinking the same thing we were drinking last week because I still had half a bottle left. It's the Jim Beam Bonded. If you don't know the story behind that, it's bonded means it is a liquor that back in, I believe it was in the late 30s or 40s, bonded meant that in order to be called bonded, it had to be 100 proof. The alcohol had to come from the same season of crop that you distilled with, and all the barrels that were aged, of course it had to be oak barrels because it's bourbon, but the barrels had to be locked in a warehouse by the government. They had a government inspector come by and actually lock up the warehouse, and that way the government knew that you aged that alcohol for 4 years.
The revenue.
Let's talk about what we were talking about earlier, the myths and legends and facts. So I was reading an article earlier, and in Boulder, Colorado, there's a, anti-smoking cigars or anti-smoking anything except for marijuana, I guess. Their stance on smoking cigars is basically it's the same as cigarettes. And I was reading in there, and one of the facts that this guy stated, because he didn't say in my opinion, so he's stating a fact, and which I think is completely BS, is he said 34% of cigar smokers get cancer, which is off the that's like 1 in 3. And I don't believe that at all, because you can go look at the FDA's website, and the FDA actually did a study, And they said for a person who smokes 1 to 2 cigars a day and does not inhale has nil percentage of getting lung cancer over people who don't smoke. So, I mean, really, to me, it sounds like, and I think we see this all the time in certain politics, is people get on a bandwagon and they just fabricate whatever they want to fabricate to make their story sound good.
It comes down to numbers, and you can make a number say anything. And what we have is a person that has taken his own study and he's fabricated the numbers to match what his opinion is.
Yeah.
When you look at the FDA, you know, they want to try to regulate everything. And if they can come up with an opinion saying that it has a nil factor versus someone that doesn't smoke, for the FDA to put that out,
That's exactly what I was thinking, because I was like, you have a government entity that is having a third party do a study, and I was like, first of all, I'm impressed that they actually came out and said that, because the FDA is completely against tobacco in all forms, shapes, and sizes. But for them to say that and then other people to state their own facts, I'm like, yeah, you can take any fact and skew it, take it out of context, and I mean, I don't know how they came up with 34% of cigar smokers come up with cancer, but it sounds like complete BS to me.
You take 3 people and then you don't disclose which cancer that person contracted, then you can say 34% came up with cancer.
Right. Or maybe just if you did a small sample of 3 people and one of them came up with cancer, that's just luck of the draw. Hey, so let's get to our cigar tip of the week, and I'm going to make this short and sweet. I know a lot of guys that I've talked to do this, and it's really not a good idea. So if you get cigars, and let's say you don't have a humidor at home, a great way to store your cigars is to put them in like a Tupperware, Rubbermaid, whatever kind of container that's airtight, and put a Bovetta pack in there. That will keep it completely humidified. But I have heard of guys that do this. If you put your cigars in the refrigerator, what happens is it actually sucks the humidity out of your cigars. That's not me. That's fact, brother.
It's 100% chemistry.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
You take an object and freeze it. You take the moisture in
not even freezing, just dropping the temperature down.
It takes the moisture
because
out of it.
The idea temperature for a humidor is 70 degrees. So you put it in a refrigerator that's like 45 to 55, you're bringing the temperature down so much that moisture is going to be sucked out. So that's the cigar tip of the week. Let's talk about our cigars of the week. Tell me what your cigar of the week is going to be this week, Bryant.
I have to say, the one I'm smoking right now.
Oh, man, come on.
I mean, I just tried it. And in trying it, it gave me...
So is that your first one?
The second one.
Second one. Okay.
Because the first one surprised me, so I had to make sure that it wasn't a fluke. So I bought another, and I tried it, and it's the same taste. It's giving me the same experience going through. You know, you can try something once, and the first time you get, it's new to you. So you're like, okay, yeah, I like that. But then you try it again, you're like, oh, it's not the same. But this Macanudo Inspirado orange label is the exact same as the one I bought Monday.
Really?
And today is Thursday.
Wow.
So, and I just truly appreciate what Macanudo did with this stick. I truly do.
I tell you, I'm going to go out on a limb here, because this is not something for me to pick this is going to be a Connecticut. I'm just going to go ahead and tell everybody right now. I know, right? So the Connecticut that I smoke, and if to be a cigar of the week for me, and you're going to have a Connecticut, it has to be something special. And I'm going to tell you right now, the McAuliffe, the McAuliffe Connecticut is something special. It has like this oily, thick wrapper, which you don't find on Connecticut. Usually a Connecticut is like a real thin, dry wrapper, and it's real easy to crack it or break it. This wrapper, man, you put your lips around this wrapper, it's like velvet. That's how I describe most cigars that are oily, but it's like super smooth. It's a thick wrapper, and man, it's one of my, I'd probably say it's in my top 25 cigars, bar none, even as a Connecticut. So this Connecticut is the Gomez Sanchez family 1934 Connecticut cigar, and man, I'm telling you, it's got a slow draw. It's probably one of the best, and as a Connecticut, it's not like a light smoke, which most of them are. It's actually a medium. And the one I smoke is the Robusto, which is the 5x52. It's 4 years aged tobacco. It's Ecuadorian Connecticut. It's also got the binder is Nicaraguan Habano, and then the filler is an 4-year aged Nicaraguan Dominican. And for the Robusto alone, I'm going to say I smoked it for about 45 minutes, 50 minutes. And I'm a fast smoker. So for that size of cigar, it's really good rolled construction that it lasts that long. So anyway, that's my cigar of the week. Hey, so guys, let's shift gears here for a second and talk about what's upcoming for Cigar Talk. Not sure if you guys know, but we are in the process of changing the name from Cigar Talk Podcast to Cigar Talk Radio. So if you're looking for us on Instagram, instead of going to cigar_talk_podcast, now you can just find us straight up Cigar Talk Radio. And that brings me to some interesting news. I hope you guys are excited because I know I sure am. We will be joining the Spoonie Radio Network here probably within the week or two. We've been in talks with them for a couple of weeks, and they do shows all about food and recipes and cooking and pairing with wines and bourbons and whiskeys. So we're going to be the added addition so that they'll have a cigar show on their network. So we're real excited about that. If you haven't checked them out, you can go by and check out what they're doing now. It's at spoonie.com. And you can kind of see what they're doing now, and hopefully will be a good addition to that network. Let's talk about hanging out at your local cigar shop. If you haven't heard, I'm sure most people know, but me and Bryant both hang out at the Leaf here in Abilene, Texas. We go around many different shops outside of Abilene. Love going out and meeting new people and meeting new owners, finding out about how they do their business, how they got started. But for us, our main shop is going to be the Leaf. And as we said before, we got a new owner, and so far things have been going really well. He's stocking up the humidor. And I mean, that's what I like to see in an owner is let's not just be happy with what we have. Let's keep bringing in new stuff.
Attention to your clientele, making sure that they're happy.
Yeah.
Providing them what they are looking for. And when you do that, they keep coming back. It continues that community.
Right. And, what I love to see is Jay actually listens to the customers, and it's like, hey, man, I smoked this cigar at this shop back in so-and-so, and I'd love it if you carry it. Well, he will do some research on that and see about bringing it in. I mean, just in the last month or so, he's brought in the Warfighter cigar line. He's brought in the Aganorsa Leaf cigar line, and he's planning on adding to that line. We talked about the Aganorsa Leaf Casa Fernandez Miami last week, and he's planning on bringing that in. So most of your shop owners, man, if you guys know something that you like, go by and talk to the owner and let him know that you really love this cigar and it'd be something that you'd be interested in purchasing on a regular basis. And I guarantee you, man, they'll probably take a look at it and bring it in if they can.
Because that keeps their business, that brick and mortar open. Providing what the customer wants, also with the atmosphere and the environment, keeps that brick and mortar open. And that's what I love about Jay. He will listen to you. He will sit down and he'll have those conversations with you. And it's not just a conversation just to keep the time going. He's actually listening.
Right.
And he'll come back with you and give you a little feedback. Yeah, I looked into this. I researched this. And that would be a great, add to our lineup. And I've seen him, like you said, with the Warfighter he brought in. It was just like, he listened to us.
Yeah, and it was just a few weeks before that I went up to Nebraska and met the guys over at Paul's Cigar Lounge in Hastings, Nebraska, and talked to those guys. And those guys loved Warfighters. They knew the guys personally because that's where Warfighters started, was in Nebraska. So whenever I came back, I told Paul about them, and then Robert, who is a sales rep for Hiram Solomon, he also started repping for Warfighters. And so, I mean, it was just like wham, bam, bam, we got new cigars.
Yeah, we had that when they came in that night and brought most of their lineup, and they sat there and the owners, the founders of Warfighter, sat with us and talked with us about it. It was a great conversation for me because I'm ex-Army and they were Army soldiers also. So we had a lot of things to talk about, and then their inspirations for their lineup, for the names of certain cigars.
And they described each brand for you, or not each brand, but each line, and the cigars in the different flavors that they come in: Maduro, Connecticut, the double Magero. So it was cool being able to sit with those guys and hear about the cigars directly from the owners, because, you know, as a cigar smoker, I love talking to the owners and finding out about their product. And, you know, you really see the passion from those guys when you're talking to them. And that's just like a cherry on top. You know what I mean?
Most definitely. It brought about a different mindset for me. And like I said, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the talk. I enjoyed the sticks that I smoked that night. And I enjoyed them since then, because I've bought many since that night. Thanks to Jay again for bringing them in, because without him bringing them in, it would be hard for me to find them.
Well, you know, at the Leaf, I think about all the brands that they've brought in just in the last 12 months. You got to look at, we went from not having any of these, but we brought in Warcraft. Yes. Not Warcraft. Warfighter. We brought in Roma Craft. Yes. We brought in Warped. Mm-hmm. We brought in McAuliffe. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think of some other brands we brought in. I know I'm missing one. Oh, Hiram & Solomon.
Yeah.
And, I mean, for a shop our size, for a town our size, we carry tons of boutique cigars. And maybe that's one of the reasons I love boutiques. I always have, but, I mean, I'm not real big on the super big brands. I know you smoke them. Macanudo, and what's the other one that you like? Monte Cristo.
Yeah.
And, you know, like Romeo and Juliet. Those are staples to the society. I get that. It's just never been my cup of tea. I've always been on the hunt for other great cigars.
New and
yeah, I always say the new and improved.
Yeah.
So, you know, I am really appreciative that we have an owner that is open to bringing in new brands, because that allows us to have so many boutique cigars. And I would say, compared to most cigar shops, we have double the boutique supply of cigars that most do.
Most definitely.
Yeah, and you know, the cool thing is we're fixing to have to move, and you guys don't know this, but the Leaf is about to have to move because their lease is up. And here's the fun fact is that the building that they lease at was owned by this guy, and he donated the building to Hendricks Hospital Organization, which is like the Gestapo of tobacco. So anyway, they said you can finish out your lease, but then after that, you got to be out of there. Yeah. So the cool thing is, I don't know if you've seen the actual blueprints of the new building.
He showed them to me.
Man, it's going to be awesome. I think the shop is going to be like 3 times as big.
Large, yes.
And the members
lounge
is going to be ginormous, which I'm excited about. And then the humidor itself is going to be twice as big as it is now. And it's going to be nicer. I think he said they're not going to have that middle island in there.
So he said that.
So that's going to be nice, just because it's going to be open. You'll be able to walk around and look at what you want to and not feel cramped. Because, man, they got so much stock in there now that it's tight.
It's very tight. And then you lose sight of what you're looking for. You get caught up in one section, and you're like, okay, and you're trying to find something, and if you can't remember where it was, you're like, hold on. You go back. Hey, Jay, man, I need to talk to you.
So I've never had that happen.
Yeah, because you are in there every day, all day.
Maybe so, but I always know where my cigars are.
I know where my Monte Cristos are.
Right.
I know where my Macanudos are.
Anyway, let's talk about what I've got coming up. In June, I'm going to release my top 10 cigars of 2019. I've been working on a list, and so if you follow along, you'll see some of the cigars of the weeks on there. And I'm planning on releasing this list probably mid-June for the top 10 cigars of the year. And some of these cigars we have at the shop, some we don't. But there's some cigars that I've smoked so far in 2019, and I got to tell you, you're going to love the list. I hope that you'll take time to seek out and find each cigar and smoke it. And then give me feedback, man. Let me know what you think about the cigars that I recommend as the top 10 so far. And then at the end of the year, I'll come out with the top 20 cigars of the year. I'm not doing the top 25 like Cigar Aficionado does, but I think 20 cigars is plenty. That's a box. So if you pick out the top 20, you have a box of what I promise you will be badass cigars. Speaking of Cigar Aficionado, I did a poll this week, and on my Instagram account, I sent out messages to 60 random cigar smokers, and I'd like to get feedback from everybody, man. I really would. Take the time to send me a message on my Instagram account, which is Cigar Talk Radio. I'd love to hear your opinion on this. So we're talking about cigars and how you find out about cigars. And somebody was saying, well, you have Cigar Aficionado, and yeah, you get the top 25, but how many people actually read Cigar Aficionado? And when I say read, I don't mean pick it up at the counter and, go through the pages real quick for like 5 seconds. What I mean is, do you subscribe to the magazine, or do you buy it at the cigar shop or a magazine stand and actually go through the whole thing? Now, on top of that, when you see a cigar ad in the Cigar Aficionado, does that influence you to buy that cigar, or do you rely on other sources? Do you rely on your friends that smoke cigars? Do you rely on podcasts, or do you rely on Instagram or Facebook to see what other people are smoking? I mean, in my opinion, I think a lot of people rely on social media for what cigars people are smoking. I mean, I know I do. When I see a cigar that I see posted over and over and over, I'm like, well, shoot, if it's posted over and over, it must be good, so I got to check it out. And sometimes it's really good, and sometimes it's okay. But to me, the value of Cigar Aficionado has served its time. Now, that's just my opinion. If you're a huge fan of Cigar Aficionado, that's cool. But I think in today's digital age, not that many people read the magazine. And if you look at their website, they say that they have 230,000 subscribers. I think that's probably about, 10,000 shops buying all those episodes. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but in my opinion, after looking at the poll, I really think that the majority of people go by word of mouth, social media, podcast, YouTube, those type of outlets to find out about their cigars.
And that's what the route I took. I looked at a Cigar Aficionado once, and I saw a cigar in there that I tried once, and after that, it didn't give me the mindset to continue perusing that magazine, because it just wasn't for me. I do exactly like you do. I look at Instagram, I look at Facebook, and if it's a cigar that people are talking about and they're giving great reviews on it, then I'm gonna try it.
Right.
And I'm gonna make my own opinion about it.
Absolutely.
And once I make my own opinion about it, it will stay with me, or I'll speak out like I say and say, no, I don't like that.
Right.
But it's my opinion, and I base it upon people that are actually smoking these cigars. I understand Cigar Aficionado is getting paid to put these things in there,
right? And
that's their niche.
Now, I will say this though, I have, especially as being a new cigar smoker back in the day, I Googled Cigar Aficionado and found an ad, or not an ad, but a article talking about the top 25. And I went down the 25 looking for an affordable cigar at the time, because I was new, and I actually went on a hunt for those cigars. But as far as being in an ad, I've never looked and seen an ad and said, oh, I'm going to try that cigar.
That's the only time I did it, was once. And I got my opinion on that stick was I didn't like it, so I didn't use it anymore. I haven't even went back to it. And to be truthful, I can't even remember which cigar it was. It was just, I didn't like it.
Right.
I really didn't like it.
Well, and the other thing, I don't want to be just picking on Cigar Aficionado.
No.
You also have Cigar Snob. You have Half Wheel. You have lots of entities that do reviews, but I'm not really talking about the reviews. I'm talking about the paid advertising. I just don't see that it's as valuable as it used to be. I think it's run its course.
It's a change of times, a change of culture. Everything is social media now. Those paperbacks. It's the same thing with ESPN. They have a magazine that I haven't read in 4 years. Everything I see is online now.
Let me tell you what I used to do.
Oh no!
Every year, no, that's not bad. Every year, ESPN magazine would have a deal, and if you bought the magazine for the year for $40, you got the Madden game for free. And the Madden game cost $60, so it was a win-win situation. But I never read the magazine. And when the swimsuit edition came out, my wife threw that in the trash. So, But it was a great deal. But I never read the magazine because all the information that I need is available on my phone too. All right, guys, so that's enough between me and Bryant for this afternoon. Let's talk about what's coming up after the break. We have a very special guest. We have Terrence Riley from Aganorsa Leaf. You guys know I love their cigars. They do the Casa Fernandez line. They do the JFR line. They do the Lunatic line. They're in partnership with Warp Cigars. I mean, you've heard me talk about the Guardian of the Farm before. The Aganorsa Leaf is all over the place. So we're super excited to have him on the show, talk about what they're doing, tell us about his history with the company. So we got a break coming up. If you guys stick with us, you'll have a great interview, and we'll be back in about 2 minutes. Welcome back, Cigar Talk. I'm your host, Rob Jones. We have a special guest with us today, Terrence Riley from the Aganorsa Leaf Company. How are you doing today, Terrence?
Just living the dream.
That's awesome, man. Well, as I was saying before, I just recently came across one of the lines of your cigars, and I just fell in love with it. And since then, I've actually ordered a box of those. And so I was hoping that you could tell us the history of the Aganorsa Leaf.
Sure. I guess where would you like me to begin in terms of the origins of the company? Or
yeah, let's talk about where the company started, its ground roots.
Sure. So it's a story that's interesting, but different slightly than others you've heard of in the cigar industry. It's similar in the sense that the company's owner, Eduardo Fernandez, is a Cuban gentleman, like so many other people in the business, and was a refugee who left Cuba after Castro took power in the late 50s. And so in that sense, it's a similar story, but it kind of diverts from there because Eduardo's family was never involved in tobacco, and he had no background in it whatsoever. And what had happened is he was actually a banker who in Miami in the late 80s saw that pizza and Domino's and Little Caesars were all becoming popular, and he took that model and took it to Spain and created a company called Telepizza to kind of perform the same function in Spain as pizza and Little Caesars and Domino's did in the United States. And it was massively successful, and he made a potload of money with his brother and some other investors. And then he was in his early 40s and didn't need to do anything, and he had always wanted to be a farmer, believe it or not. And so he went to Nicaragua, and this is in the late 90s, and invested in pigs and cattle and tobacco.
Oh, wow.
And so he started off growing tobacco. Now, because he didn't really know much about growing tobacco, he went to Cuba, and he brought over a whole team of Cuban agronomists and guys that had worked for Cuba Tobacco for some cases, nearly half a century, and took them over to Nicaragua. Guys like Arsenio Ramos, Jacinto Iglesias, and many other guys who were really high-ranking Cuban farmers and very heavily involved in growing Cuban tobacco. And he brought them to Nicaragua and gave them a lot more resources and the ability to have access to a lot more materials, fertilizers, everything else, and started growing tobacco in Nicaragua. And what was interesting is he started to grow tobacco. When you grow tobacco, you almost always have a buyer set. It's not like you just, I'll just plant this and see what happens. And in this case, that's what he actually did. His idea was that if you make a good product, people will beat a path to your door. And because the tobacco was excellent and really unique from most of what's grown out there, he started to get buyers. And so that's kind of how they started in the business, was through growing tobacco. But as time evolved, we started to get involved in other areas, distribution, manufacturing. So today we're a vertically integrated company from seed to ash. We control pretty much the entire process. And we have 2 factories in Nicaragua, a small operation here in Miami, as well as distribution in Miami as well. So, and we're one of the largest growers of tobacco in Nicaragua.
So tell us, what's the difference that you guys have with the Aganorsa Leaf?
So we're primarily there's kind of three aspects to it, which I've kind of briefly touched upon in that story. Is one is the seeds we grow. We grow Corojo 99 and Criollo 98 seeds. The Corojo 99 especially because it's not really grown commonly in Nicaragua because it doesn't necessarily have the yield that some of the other hybrid tobaccos have out there.
I see.
So we're growing for basically flavor and aroma, and that sounds obvious. You say, well, what else would you grow tobacco for? But
Right.
it's kind of like the tomatoes in the grocery store. The tomatoes in the grocery store, they didn't grow those because they taste the most delicious. They grew them because they'd make it to the grocery store. They don't bruise easily and they ripen slowly.
Right.
Because if that farmer in Iowa, sends the tomatoes to Florida and they don't make it, or they're bruised, or like that's all costing him money. So he's not primarily concerned that he just wants the tomatoes to make it there.
Yeah. So what I understand here is you guys aren't growing for volume. You're actually growing for quality.
Exactly. So yeah, and we're growing seeds that don't necessarily yield as high. We grow seeds that don't necessarily ferment as quickly as some of the hybrids that are out there, but they produce an incredible flavor and aroma. And because we have the skilled team of Cuban agronomists that we have, and who are growing tobacco, and this is kind of an overused kind of cliche in the cigar industry, Cuban style and everything like that. But we're growing using actual guys that grew tobacco in Cuba, and in some cases even ran some of the operations over there. And they're using that kind of mentality from back in the glory days to recreate that flavor profile, and again using seeds that I believe that in Pinar del Rio, Corojo 99 is still what they're growing over there. So it's that combination of the people are farmers and agronomists, the seeds we're growing, and then just Nicaragua itself, the climate and the soils. We have a lot of the best farms in Nicaragua. We have some land that was formerly owned by most of the dictators. That was some of the best land there. So it's those three qualities that kind of bring everything together, and the fact we control the whole process from seed to ash. If you have the best steak in the world, and then you fry it up and it turns into shoe leather, it doesn't matter what it was.
Right.
It matters what it is. So because we control curing, fermentation, aging, blending, rolling, distribution, that allows us to ensure that what we want to achieve is achieved, rather than depending on other people and saying, well, we just grew some great tobacco, let's hope it tastes great.
And for me, it's interesting because I didn't actually know about your products until recently, but what's funny is I'm actually a fan and didn't know I was a fan, because I've been smoking Aganorsa Leaf and other products. One of my favorite cigars is the Guardian of the Farm, and I was not aware that you guys are supplying the tobacco for that particular cigar.
Oh, well, not only do we supply tobacco, we make and distribute it. It's a collaboration with Warp Cigars with Kyle Gallis, but we also that particular brand is sold through us.
Oh, okay.
So that's something, actually, to be honest with you, you just said a minute ago, is basically what I've heard a lot, is that you've enjoyed the product but didn't really know it was us.
We didn't know where it was coming from. We just knew we loved it. So
yeah, which is really all that matters ultimately. But from a business perspective, what we've been trying to do, and why I was hired, is that we had kind of focused on growing and making cigars for other people, and we really hadn't put a lot of emphasis on creating recognition for ourselves. And I joined the company.
The brand hasn't been there.
I'm sorry?
I said the brand hasn't been there. The quality product's been there, but we didn't know who the brand was.
Exactly. Yeah, and the best cigar you've never heard of is usually one you don't necessarily reach for in the humidor. So,
right.
That's something that I saw as a huge opportunity, because that's a lot easier than making good, really great cigars, which I don't really have control over. I go to the factory a few times a year and go down there, and I'm involved in what we're coming out with. But in terms of the day-to-day operations and the blends and the quality of the leaf and the processes and everything, that I really, there's nothing I could do to make that better or good if it wasn't there already. So I basically saw this company that had, it was a sleeping giant, quite frankly. It had great tobacco. It was kind of like if people like knew of Ashton and hadn't really heard of Fuente. I mean, it just didn't make sense to me. So many companies use our tobacco, and we made cigars for so many companies that were really high and highly acclaimed. And then we didn't have the notoriety that the people that were using our tobacco did. And to me, that was our fault and didn't make sense. And thank God, because otherwise I probably wouldn't have a job.
Yeah, and in case the listeners don't know, I mean, you guys do the Guardian of the Farm. You also do the Lunatic cigars, and I believe you guys do the JFR.
JFR, yeah. So our kind of core lines are the JFR, which the Lunatic is an extension of that. It's kind of our bread and butter. The price point on them is really incredible, and the taste is excellent. If I had to buy all our cigars, I'd smoke a heck of a lot of JFR. I can tell you that, because the value is incredible. Guardian of the Farm is our collab with Warp Cigars, which is really great, because Kyle Gellis got a huge following and is really popular and has a profile and kind of style that's unique to him, and he combined to work with us for that particular brand. So that's been really successful for us. It was a top 10 cigar in Cigar Aficionado.
Yeah, I saw that.
2017. Yeah, so that was a huge benefit. And then we have our Casa Fernandez lines, which we've kind of rebranded through Aganorsa Leaf. And so we have the Connecticut was Cigar Authority's #1 cigar of the year. We've had a lot of success with those Habano, Connecticut, Corojo, Maduro blends.
Yeah, I've seen some very high ratings on those cigars.
Yeah, so things are really, they've really taken off. I mean, this past year was by far our most successful as a company. And this year we're doing even better than last year. So it's really, and that's really a credit to all the guys out there that support us and are, ultimately they got to take their hard-earned money out of their pocket and buy a cigar. And they're choosing us, so we appreciate that.
And that's great. And I'll tell you, I discovered your cigars, the Aganorsa Leaf Casa Fernandez line, while I was up in Lubbock, Texas, doing a show. And the manager there, Brad, he knows me. I come in there pretty regularly, and I hadn't been up there for a couple of months. And when I came in, he's like, "Man, I got the perfect cigar for you." And it was the Casa Fernandez Aganorsa Leaf. I believe it was the Corojo. And man, I fell in love. I was like, where's this cigar been? I don't know about this cigar. So I was super excited about it.
Yeah, and it's great to hear that type of story for two reasons. One is that the retailer said, you've got to try this, which is so crucial. I mean, really the only metric of our success is how passionate people are for our product, that they'll recommend it. So that's really the only thing we're even looking at. And two, you enjoyed it. You really enjoyed it. So that's the second part. So,
yeah.
That's that really is. It's great to hear those type of stories, because that's really all we're trying to do is that scenario.
Well, and I'll tell you, since talking with you a few weeks ago about scheduling this interview, I've noticed that you guys are really, excuse my language, but kicking ass as far as Instagram and your online marketing. And I think raising public awareness is #1, because when you have a great product, man, you got to have it seen on social media. Yeah,
I mean, if you don't get your presence out there, it's really easy to pick other things. Like we all do it. We go to the liquor store and we go and pick out, a bottle and say, well, I know I like this and this other one next to it. Why should I buy that? And there's something that's got to happen. Somebody had to say, hey, you got to have this, or you had to see some sort of information about it, either in social media or in an article in a magazine or whatever it is. And you have to really, have some sort of factor come in, interfere in that transaction, or otherwise the person ends up going to buy what they have just bought, 100 other times. So
right.
we view social media as crucial to that, because it's a way to really interact directly with a lot of people out there, especially the type of people that we want to, reach. They're what you kind of call mavens. They're guys that they get passionate about something and then they repost it and then they send, they go out and write about it and they tell other people, you got to try it. And they're people that kind of move the scales and the humidors and the online community. So
yeah, it really helps spread the word of mouth. I mean, and you get people's curiosity up. And I mean, I've tried a ton of cigars that I've seen people post, especially when I see it posted over and over. I'm like, man, that looks like a great cigar. I better try it. So I think you are doing a great job when it comes to a social media presence. So is that primarily your responsibility as far as marketing?
Yes. So yeah, my official title is VP of sales and marketing. So I handle those two areas. We try to, again, as time goes on, we'll probably have more people involved in these things than currently. I handle a lot of it at the moment. But yeah, we try to on social media try to differentiate a little bit. Like on LinkedIn, we try to keep it kind of more informative articles, interviews, content about factories and things like that. We try, because it's a little bit more obviously professional. And then, Instagram, it's more picture oriented, really having great, photos. And Facebook is more, communal. You have a lot of people interacting, and there's various groups, which some are more, relaxed in the, basic standards of decency than,
Right.
others.
I understand what you're saying there. So let's talk about how it came to be that you guys decided to rebrand, because before it was the Casa Fernandez line, and now you've swapped over to the Aganorsa Leaf. So how did that come about?
So really, when you look at companies, the key thing for any brand or any company is saying, okay, what's different and what's meaningful about this product? Like, why would somebody, what do we have that somebody else doesn't have, and why does that matter? And so generally in the cigar industry, it kind of breaks down into three categories, where it's kind of, what's different is the personality of the owner. That's very cult of personality oriented, where the owner's persona is really kind of what makes the difference between that and another brand. Other companies are more lifestyle based. You think of, I always use a great example, Davidoff. Davidoff, you have an immediate image of the type of person that would smoke a Davidoff. You have the suit and the kind of European style and that, obviously high end. They've done a great job of kind of creating that image, so that a person that smokes Davidoff says, oh, I'm this type of person, and this is why I purchased the product. True. And then you have product based. And again, it doesn't mean this is the only thing that's special, but usually it's the thing that these companies focus on. And so the third category is product based. So the cigar is like La Flor is a great example. Homo Ligero, they're kind of branded themselves as the powerful, strong cigars that are on the market. And that's kind of more what we wanted to do. We wanted to say, okay, what's different about us? And really what it is the tobacco that we grow. And that's what's special about us. And that's what's different. It has a very unique flavor and aroma that really nothing else out there has. So rather than use Casa Fernandez, where the name Fernandez and with Latin people is like Smith in English. I mean, everybody has the name.
Sure.
There was confusion with AJ, and it just didn't convey who we were as well. So we wanted to focus on what makes us different, and that's the quality of our leaf. So it just was an obvious choice to pick Aganorsa Leaf, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it's a great branding change. I really like it. I love the logo. I love the history behind it, and just the rich work ethic that it takes to grow a leaf that's not as high yielding as a lot of other leaf. It shows that there is a lot of passion about growing a specific type cigar that might not be as high yielding as some other ones, but it's definitely as high quality as any cigar.
Yeah, I mean, and we actually go out and we do what's called Aganorsa experiences at retailers. Nationwide, we do this with the retailer and the staff, and then we do it as at events at retailers with the consumers, where they actually get to try individual fumas or puritos of our seeds, of our leaf, and they get to experience it for themselves. And you can taste the difference. It's not like, oh, there's blueberry pie and apple crisp and all that stuff. It's stuff that anybody can essentially taste and experience the difference between the two and grasp that. It's palpable. And so that's a much more powerful way to do it than just some guy coming around saying, hey, we got really special tobacco and it's different. And it's, this is something that the person gets to experience for themselves. And then, seeing is believing, as they say.
Absolutely. And just while I have your ear, I tell you who would love to do an event like that is The Leaf in Abilene, Texas.
God bless them. They're good. They're good. I'll have our rep reach out to them
Yeah,
to
definitely
set
do.
something like that up.
That's my home shop, so that's why I'm giving you the plug
Yeah,
to come on over there.
They've made a believer out of you as well, it seems. So that's a crucial thing as well.
Yeah, so definitely check into that. But so tell us a little bit about your history before you came to the Aganorsa Leaf family.
So I've been in the business for a little over a decade, I think, at this point. I started off. I have family that's been in the business since the 1800s. My uncle is Manuel Quesada from Quesada Cigars, and when I was younger, I spent the summer down there in the factory. I grew up in Massachusetts. I'm a gringo, but I wanted to go down and see Dominican Republic and say, hey, I've got family down there. I'm go work in a cigar factory.
How old were you then?
I was probably just out of college. I think it was probably like 22, 23, somewhere around there.
Great experience.
I just got out of college basically, and I did that for a summer, and then a couple of years later, I really enjoyed it. For the reasons we all kind of appreciate cigars. Those of us who know a little bit about it is it creates the camaraderie among people, the craftsmanship that goes into it, how it's so much tradition passed down, and all that was really something I found very interesting. And then a few years later, I had the opportunity to come work for the company. So then I moved to the Dominican Republic, and I lived down in Dominican for a while, and then ended up handling national sales for Quesada Cigars. They make Nat Sherman brands. They distributed the brand for the Casa Magna cigars. That was #1 cigar of the year. That was made by Plasencia, but it was a brand that we created and distributed.
So you've been around the business.
Yeah, I've been around for a minute or two.
Well, that's great.
I mean, not compared to a lot of these guys. I guess it's all relative, but
yeah. Well, you're not old enough to be that far along yet.
Yeah, not that old yet. No, I guess that's a good thing. But I hope to make it there, certainly. I'm
sure you will. So, do you guys have anything maybe you could tell us that's coming up that we don't know about? You got some surprise cigars that we don't know about? What do you got in the mix?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more of a process of continuing, just to speak generally, of tie the product lines in together better. We've rebranded a lot of the product, where before, if you saw 4 of our brands on the shelf, you might not even recognize it was the same company. So that really wasn't something that was good, quite frankly. So we changed that around. So now if you look at for instance, our Aganorsa Leaf, Habano, Corojo, Connecticut, and Maduro, it's all clearly the same brand. They're all different, but you can tell it's the same company that makes them all. Whereas before, you really can judge that. And so we're going to continue that kind of process of creating, that better integration of our product lines together. And then also, working on some things that, because of our capacities as a vertically integrated company, that we can do that other people can't. So when we come out with something, we don't want to just come out with stuff and throw it at the wall and say, here's a bunch of whole new brands. Let's figure out what sticks out here. We want to say, we came out with this for this reason, and it highlights this for us. And the more you can do that, the better, really, because, just coming out with a cigar and saying, here's a new Toro, and it's got,
Right. You got to have a purpose behind it.
Exactly.
So, all right. Well, let's ask you this one question. Since you're the VP of sales for Aganorsa Leaf, we want to know, out of the whole family of cigars, which is your favorite?
Which is my favorite? So that's always an interesting question for me, because I'm going to answer you, but I'm going to qualify it.
All answer.
Right. If I were just simply to buy our cigar as a consumer, and I would say, okay, and I was basically, time had nothing to do with anything, I would probably smoke our Aganorsa Leaf Signature, which has Medio Tiempo in it. It's a brand that comes out in allotments a couple times a year.
Okay.
We just actually had a shipment. It has a beautiful gold foil packaging and everything like that. Not that you don't smoke the packaging, but we wanted something that represented, the quality of the tobacco. And it uses Medio Tiempo, which is just a few, leaves at the very top of the plant. right by the crown of the plant. And not every plant produces it's an unusual looking leaf. It's thick and small. It kind of looks like alligator skin. It's very unusual. And out of 15,000 bales we produce, only 50 to 80 bales are medio tiempo. So it's very low amounts. Yeah. So it's another, again, it focuses something that's special about us. So I would probably smoke those if, nothing, all things being the same. But what I smoke the most of, and partly because of time and partly just because I really enjoy them, is the Garden of the Farm Rambo and the JFR Junior, which is a short, 4.5 by 46 cigar. So because for me, I'm always moving around and I'm always doing this and doing that. I don't usually have the time to smoke a longer cigar, and I hate wasting a cigar where nowadays there's so many, even though we're in the cigar industry, there's so many places you can't smoke. So the idea of putting out a cigar that you're really enjoying drives me nuts. So I can usually finish off some of these smaller, shorter sizes in a reasonable amount of time.
Oh, that's perfect, man. So before we go, give me the name of your number one cigar again that you said you'd smoke.
Aganorsa Leaf Signature.
Signature. All right. Well, we're definitely going to keep an eye out for that. It sounds fantastic.
Well, I appreciate you, brother.
Hey, man. Well, we appreciate you coming on the show. Thank you so much. And, man, we just wish you guys the best. I'm a huge fan of your cigars, so that's the whole reason I reached out to you guys. When I find something that I love, I want to talk to somebody from the company. So we appreciate your time and all your stories and explanation behind the brand, man.
No, my pleasure. I appreciate you reaching out to me, and this is really, it's always I'm always humbled when somebody wants to hear anything I have to say. So thank you so much for having me, and we appreciate you and the kind words.
All right. Well, thank you, brother. You have a good day.
Take care, man.
Hey guys, before we go, we wanted to let you know we're giving away a 50 cal lighter, and it looks like a 50 cal bullet. And anyway, we'll post the pictures of it this week. We will link it to the manufacturer so you can go check them out. But anyway, they were gracious enough to send us one. And in order to win, what we're going to do is you go post a picture of you smoking a cigar and use the hashtag LightEmUpCrew, and we'll take the top 6 most popular photos and do a random drawing from those 6 people. And whoever is the lucky drawing winner will be the winner of this really cool lighter. It's single flame, and I'm usually not a big fan of single flames, but this one is the flame is huge, and it's great to light up a cigar. I've checked it out. It was a very, very well thought out cigar lighter. Anyway, that about wraps it up, guys. And next week we'll be doing the interview with Jay Patterson and Corey, the new owners of the Leaf. So until next week, stay smoky, my friends.